What's up, guys? I'm Thomas Mahler with Team Mahler Sports, and today we're going to be talking about the NCAA tournament. Great! So, I've spent many hours making my bracket for this year's tournament, and I'm very excited to share it with you guys. I think it's great. I'm going to be the first one to ever win the Perfect Bracket Challenge. Just putting that out there. All right. Let's get bracketing. So, first up, we have Duke versus... Doesn't matter. Duke wins. They're better. Next, we have UCF and their 7'6" center. They win. He's very tall. Liberty, 12 seed. Love 12-5 upsets. Liberty is not the upset to bet on. Liberty is not going to win. Next, we have Virginia Tech versus St. Louis. St. Louis is terrible. Their offense is bad. And Virginia Tech's defense is good. St. Louis doesn't win. Then we have Belmont. Belmont is going to beat Temple in the first four. And then Belmont is going to beat Maryland in the 6-11 game. Belmont is my favorite 11 seed. They're great. They're going to win. And then Yale is only in the tournament because some Ivy League has to be in the tournament. They don't belong in the tournament, and they're not going to be in it for very long. They're just going to lose right away to LSU, so that's great. Minnesota playing Louisville in the 7-10 game. Minnesota always loses in the tournament, so they're going to lose in the tournament in the first game again. So, Michigan State, 2-15 game, they're going to win it this time. A couple years ago, did not go so hot. Middle Tennessee, we don't need to talk about it. Michigan State's actually going to win this time. What's this? Hold on. All right, next we have Gonzaga versus... Oh, it doesn't matter. They're going to win. And then Syracuse, well-coached team, versus Baylor, who kind of has the same affliction as Minnesota. They don't win in the tournament, so they're not going to. Syracuse will. So that's great. Oh, Marquette versus Murray State. I'm very excited for this game. It's a matchup of great guards. John Morant, who is likely a top 3 pick in the NBA draft, and Marcus Howard from Marquette, who is super fun to watch. It's going to be great, but Marquette has a better team, so they're going to win. Yeah. Next game, Vermont versus Florida State. Vermont, not a bad team, but Florida State did like the exact same thing, same kind of record against a much tougher schedule. Played a lot harder teams. Also, Florida State is going to win. Yeah, no, that's what's going to happen. Buffalo got the 4-13 upset last year. They beat Arizona and the number 1 overall pick, DeAndre Ayton. So that's something. But this time they're going to get upset. You know, pretty cool. Pretty cool how that happens, you know. They're either going to play Arizona State or St. John's. Buffalo is going to lose to either of those teams. Whoever they play, they're going to lose. Texas Tech against Northern Kentucky. Texas Tech is better at basketball, which is important when playing basketball games. So they're going to win. All right. Now the 10-7. Florida went 5-3 versus top 25 teams this year, and Nevada went 1-1, both against Utah State, who was ranked number 25 at the time. So, based off that, Florida's going to win. And then Michigan versus Montana. Michigan wins. That's all that needs to be said about that one. All right. We're going to pick up the pace here a little bit. So, Virginia does not have to play UMBC this year, so they're going to win this time. Oklahoma is going to eke out a very well-matched game against Ole Miss. Wisconsin playing Oregon in the 12-5. Oregon is the 12-5 upset this year. I think they're well-coached, and they thrive in the face of adversity. Also, they're good at basketball. Kansas State continues its tremendous season and advances. Villanova against St. Mary's. St. Mary's automatic bid is going to fall to the defending champs. Old Dominion versus Purdue. ODU is not on the same level as Purdue and aren't going to win against Purdue. Cincinnati is very experienced and tough on defense. They're going to beat Iowa. And then Tennessee does not lose to bad teams, and Colgate is a team that I would call a bad team, so Tennessee is not going to lose to Colgate. So that's how that works. UNC. Iona is not happening. UNC is going to advance. Utah State versus Washington. Battle of defenses. Washington wins it. Auburn versus New Mexico State, who is a popular upset pick. Auburn is not going to get upset, though. They're going to win. Now, Kansas plays Northeastern. They're going to win because Kansas is good, and Northeastern isn't very. Houston and their star backcourt are going to beat Georgia State. Iowa State is going to win the 6-11 against Ohio State. All right, here we go. Wofford, one of the best shooting teams in the country. They win a tough game against Seton Hall, who's very experienced. But Wofford, very good at shooting threes. And 3 is higher than 2. So they're going to win because that's more points. And Abel Christian plays Kentucky. Abel Christian is in deep water, in above its head. And it just so happens that they failed their swim lessons. So they're going to go ahead and drown against Kentucky. Now, entering the round of 32, Duke will play UCF. So Zion Williamson is going to find a way to look bigger than 7'6" Taco Fall. Also, better at the sport, so they're going to win that game. Virginia Tech is going to exploit Mississippi State's tendency to turn it over with their good defense, and they're going to win. Belmont, they're going to beat LSU. LSU's overrated, and Belmont is underrated, which means Belmont is going to win. Michigan State against Louisville, they get revenge for their loss earlier in the season, so they will advance. And then Gonzaga versus Syracuse. Gonzaga is going to be the first 1 seed to drop out because they're not used to playing actual good teams. They really just play like, what's the word? Bad teams. So they're going to lose because they're not ready. All right, next game. Florida State is going to absorb Marquette's electric offense. I wish I hadn't said that. Florida State's going to win that one. Texas Tech versus either Arizona State or St. John's. Texas Tech is better at basketball in this game, too, so they're going to win that one. Michigan versus Florida. Michigan isn't going to lose. I'm going to call it. I'm going to bet my life that Michigan is going to beat Florida. So, next game. Virginia against Oklahoma. Still not playing UMBC. Still no worries. Virginia advances. Oregon versus Kansas State. Oregon had a cool upset, but K-State keeps winning. Purdue versus Villanova. So, it's hard to defend the title after you won, which Villanova did last year. And it's hard to beat Purdue because Purdue's really good. Villanova is going to do neither, and they're going to lose, and Purdue will advance. Tennessee versus Cincinnati. Tennessee does not lose to mediocre teams, so they're not going to. UNC versus Washington. UNC is better in every single way, so usually that means they win. I'll bank on that, so I'm going to bank on them winning. Auburn versus Kansas. Kansas's disappointing season ends like you would expect it. Disappointing and with a loss. So, they're going to lose. Houston is a very short team overall. Lack of height is a problem against Iowa State's stellar rebounding. And Wofford, the 3-point legends, are going to continue to score 3 points a lot of 3 points, and they're going to beat Kentucky. I know, right? So many 3-pointers will be required, but they're gonna make it happen. Wofford. All right, moving into the Sweet 16. Uh, Duke versus Virginia Tech. Zion might need both shoes for this one, but I think Duke's going to pull it out. Next game. All right. Belmont versus Michigan State. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Belmont. The road ends here. Michigan State wins. Sorry, Belmont. I'm sorry. Then moving on, Syracuse versus Florida State. Cool upset by Syracuse, but they're going to get wrecked by Florida State. Again, it happened earlier this year, and it was bad. All right, and Texas Tech versus Michigan. Battle of two of the country's best defenses, maybe the two best defenses. But Michigan has a much more competent offense, so they're going to win that one. All right. Virginia versus Kansas State. Fun fact. Oh. Now it's time for the fun fact of the day. If you rearrange the letters in Kansas State, it actually spells out UMBC. And Virginia can't beat them, so Kansas State advances. Next up, Purdue versus Tennessee. Tennessee volunteers to beat Purdue. I'm sorry for that one. I'm sorry. All right. UNC is better than Auburn. So, UNC is going to advance past Auburn. All right. Wofford, the Cinderella story of the year. Against Iowa State, they're going to not miss a single shot the entire game, and Iowa State's not even going to score. It's going to be 100 million to 0. Wofford for the championship. Yeah. Okay, now, moving into the Elite Eight. First up, we have Duke versus Michigan State. Michigan State is good, but they have a severe lack of players named Zion, and Duke has one. So Duke is gonna win. Then we have Florida State versus Michigan. Michigan has to represent for the Big Ten because Michigan State totally blew it. So Michigan is going to beat Florida State and go into the Final Four. Now, Kansas State involuntarily falls to the Tennessee Volunteers. Oh, next game. All right. Wofford versus UNC. The rematch of the season opener. Wofford, Cinderella, is gonna lose. I'm sorry, Wofford. I'm even more sorry for Wofford than I am for Belmont. I'm sorry, Wofford and Belmont. I'm really sorry, Belmont. Anyway, moving on. All right, it's Final Four time. Big money, big money. So, Duke versus Michigan. Nothing about watching this Duke team play at full strength makes you think they're going to lose. Nothing they do looks like a losing team. But they're going to lose to Michigan. Good job, Michigan. You won. UNC versus Tennessee. UNC beats Tennessee. They do it. Yeah. Now, so that takes Michigan back to the championship game for the second year in a row, where they lost last year to Villanova, of course. Only this time, they lose again. I'm sorry, Michigan. And UNC, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, the Tar Heels, are your 2019 national champions of basketball in college in NCAA Division I basketball, college basketball. Congratulations, UNC.